Nick strode into the grand drawing room of Forrester Mansion as though he owned its marble floors and sweeping crystal chandeliers, his suit impeccably tailored, but his demeanor bristling with challenge. He had called this meeting, this reckoning, not out of courtesy but necessity, a final gambit to unmask Ridge Forrester's duplicity and stake his own claim to the woman both brothers could not live without. As the late afternoon sun slanted through the arched windows, painting gold on the ancient tapestries, Nick cleared his throat and dared to draw every eye to his purpose. "Ridge," he began, voice calm yet incendiary, "it's time we stop playing these childish games, flitting back and forth between two women as though their hearts are prizes at one of your fashion shows." The accusation landed like a thunderclap. Ridge, who had never before been called to account so publicly, felt a flush of indignation. He strode forward, the hem of his cashmere suit whispering against the polished floor. "You have no right to question my relationships or my loyalty," he shot back, but Nick only smiled, an unholy blend of triumph and pity. "Oh, but I do," Nick countered, stepping closer until their collars nearly brushed. In that charged moment, Brooke Logan, stunned witness to the fraternal feud that had defined her life for decades, stood trembling at the edge of the room, torn between two men she had loved with equal ferocity. Neither brother moved to comfort her. Instead, they circled one another in a ritual of words sharpened like knives, each convinced that victory would restore their honor and win her heart once and for all. The confrontation escalated with every clipped retort. Nick, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, accused Ridge of hiding behind the Forrester name and your cashmere fantasies while you juggle my sister and my mother like they're mere accessories to your legacy. A gasp rippled through the assembled family members, carriages, and staff who had quietly assembled to bear witness to what promised to be a historic collision of wills. Ridge's face darkened. The baritone laugh that usually signaled control was replaced by a snarl. "You dare speak of legacy? You, who have undermined every aspect of my career, who've sabotaged my shipments and tried to usurp my board votes." At that, Nick produced a dossier, shipment records he had pilfered from Forrester Creations, proof of Ridge's suspicious delays and their negative impact on quarterly forecasts. He laid them on the marble table as though sacrificing them to the gods of commerce, the evidence a cold, unassailable indictment. "I did it to remind you that everything you hold dear, your company, your reputation, exists because of me as much as you," Nick intoned. Brooke's eyes darted between the two men, tears welling. Ridge, for the first time, seemed unmoored, his undefeated posture faltering. He barked, "You play a dangerous game, brother. One day your self-righteous crusade will cost you everything." Yet the vehemence of his challenge only seemed to provoke Nick further, who smiled with the ease of a man certain he held all the aces. As dusk settled, casting long shadows across the domed ceiling, Ridge realized that words alone would no longer suffice. He needed to summon every resource, every ounce of power from his career, his family connections, and his years at the helm of Forrester Creations to withstand this assault. With a tilt of his head, he motioned to his sister Felicia, who signaled the servants to bring forward the family charter. It was an ornate leather-bound testament to the Forrester dynasty, its clauses governing succession and shared distribution written by Eric's own hand. "You want my empire?" Ridge growled, thumbing through the gilded pages until he found the bylaw that allowed a majority shareholder to buy out dissenting minority interests under certain conditions. He looked up at Nick, eyes aflame. "You want these shares? You want to control Forrester Creations? Fine, but you'll pay the price." Nick's lips curved into a knowing smile as Ridge laid out the terms, half the company's value, or a price so exorbitant that anyone else would have laughed at it, but a sum Nick, fueled by obsession, would likely meet. The room held its collective breath. Could Ridge really be prepared to sacrifice half his legacy, to sell out his birthright, to prove himself worthy of Brooke's unwavering devotion? The question hung between them like an axe suspended over a throne. Brooke, who had stood to the side, stifling her sobs behind trembling hands, watched Ridge's face contort with anguish and defiance. She wanted to scream at him to stop, to reject such a reckless transaction that would leave the Forrester name in tatters. But Nick's earlier words had pierced her soul. "You're either with me or you're with him," he had said, his gaze dark and challenging. Ridge's proposal to hand over shares had been calculated to show he would sacrifice everything, his business, his power, his very identity, to stand by Brooke. As his fiancée, she should have felt comforted. Instead, she felt the weight of his choice crushing her. The woman who had spent her life navigating the tempests of Forrester ambition, who had loved and loved again within these walls, now realized that Ridge's ultimatum risked destroying more than his reputation. It threatened the future of every designer, model, and artisan who depended on the company's stability. And yet, as Ridge turned to Brooke, his eyes shining with desperation, she sensed that in his heart he truly believed this sacrifice was the only proof he could offer. Proof that his love for her transcended blood, business, and honor. In the hush that followed, Nick advanced on Brooke, placing a gentle hand on her arm, his voice suddenly lower, almost tender. "Brooke, look at him," he whispered so only she could hear. "He's ready to trade the Forrester crown for your love. Is that what you want? Is that what you deserve?" Brooke felt her resolve fracture, her loyalties pulled taut as a violin string about to snap. Ridge clenched his fists, his knuckles white against the ledger's leather cover, and spoke with a raw vulnerability none had ever seen. "I will sell my shares. I will watch this company crumble if that's what it takes for you to know I belong with you, and only you." The sheer magnitude of that vow stunned every soul in the room. Felicia gasped. Eric, seated at the head of the gathering, pressed his palm to his forehead, torn between paternal pride and mortal fear for his son's future. Brooke stood frozen, tears carving silent tracks down her cheeks, knowing that to accept Ridge's offer would be to watch the empire she had helped build collapse in ruins. Yet to refuse would be to turn away from the only man who had ever risked everything for her. As the silver chandeliers flickered to life, casting prisms of light across the tension-soaked tableau, the brothers waited, one for the kiss of triumph, the other for a promise of redemption that had cost him dearly. Brooke inhaled, her heart throbbing like the crescendo of a symphony gone awry, and realized this moment would define all that came after. If she said yes, Ridge would extinguish half his legacy for her sake. If she said no, Nick's gloating face would become her lifelong regret. Outside, the Los Angeles skyline shimmered in the gathering night, the city oblivious to the seismic shockwaves rippling through its most glamorous stronghold. Within Forrester Mansion's hallowed halls, love and honor teetered on a razor's edge, threatened by ambition, loyalty tested by sacrifice, and bound forever by a choice whose consequences would resonate through every seam of the Forrester dynasty. The question remained, could Ridge truly trade his company for the warmth of Brooke's embrace, or would the price of love prove too high even for the bold and the beautiful? This week on The Bold and the Beautiful, the quiet corridors of Los Angeles General pulse with new energy as Dr. John Finn Finnegan wheels his recovered patient, Liam Spencer, down the gleaming hallways. The tension between life and death has never felt so immediate, Liam's near-fatal collapse a stark reminder that every heartbeat can hang by a thread. And Finn and Bridget Forrester find themselves thrown together under the harsh fluorescence of the ICU wing, forced to confront not only Liam's fragile recovery, but their own tangled emotions. With Liam now declared out of the woods, Finn straightens his white coat, glances across the nurse's station at Bridget's familiar silhouette, and realizes they have far more than a medical debrief to navigate. The air crackles as they exchange clipped pleasantries about treatment plans and post-operative care, each word laden with unspoken questions. How much does Bridget still care for the man who once carried her through her darkest moments? And can Finn truly bury the ache in his chest when every caring glance he casts in Bridget's direction feels like a lifeline he's desperate to cling to? Meanwhile, whispers echo through the hospital lounges that the writers of B are hell-bent on keeping Bridget Forrester center stage, and that she'll need a romance worthy of the legacy she upholds. Fans have taken to social media, their speculation a chorus of hope and impatience. Will the former paramour of Captain Nick Marone find solace in the arms of the man who saved her daughter's life? Nick himself, freshly returned to LA, seems oblivious to Bridget's availability as he pursues one woman only, Brooke Logan, his one-time flame and the current obsession of half the Forrester family. His overtures toward Brooke leave Bridget on the sidelines, ripe for the picking by any would-be suitor, and Finn's white-knuckled restraint hints that he may just seize this rare opening. Rumors swirl that Bridget is officially in the crosshairs of every eligible bachelor on screen, yet none loom larger than her physician colleague, Finn, the man whose steady hands stitched her life back together after her daughter's traumatic shooting at Luna Nozawa's sushi emporium. That incident still casts a long shadow. Steffi and Finn's marriage, once the stuff of tabloids and adoring fans, now groans under the weight of blame and recrimination. Steffi has spent the past weeks drifting between guilt and anger, her eyes often distant as she nurses the wound of Luna's senseless death, a wound Finn feels compelled to soothe even as it tears at the foundations of their vows. His heart, still raw from losing his daughter, aches at every memory of Luna's laugh, and he cannot bear to see Steffi retreat into herself, the woman he loves slipping away into Liam's comforting presence. Steffi's clandestine late-night visits with Liam, her ex and the father of her firstborn, have fanned the flames of scandal, prompting public outcry that their marriage may soon implode. Online rumor mills churn with the sensational claim that Steffi's affair with Liam will culminate in a full-fledged divorce, leaving Finn adrift and enraged by the notion that his wife's heart could stray when he needed her most. As steamy texts between Steffi and Liam leak to King Publishing, Finn's once compassionate demeanor hardens. Resentment coils in his chest like a serpent, whispering that Steffi chose her former lover over the man who held her hand through the operating table and promised to dedicate his life to their family. It is in these hollowed moments between rounds that Finn finds himself drawn to Bridget's unwavering strength and quiet empathy, to the way her smile flickers with genuine concern when she sees him log back into charts far past his shift, as though he seeks her approval in every line he types. On-screen chemistry crackles whenever Finn and Bridget collaborate, but off-camera, staff gossip grows louder. Do you see how he looks at her? Did you hear her voice tremble when she thanked him for staying up all night? These murmurs build until they echo through the sterilized corridors, bouncing off walls each time the pair share a lingering touch or an exchanged glance that speaks volumes. Yet Bridget resists temptation with admirable resolve, reminding herself that Finn is her friend and colleague first, and that mixing medicine with romance can cloud judgment as dangerously as a misread chart. Still, as the week unfolds, the hospital's fluorescent hum becomes a backdrop for stolen moments in supply closets, hushed conversations in break rooms, and the brush of fingertips while passing gauze. Their banter, once strictly professional, drips with double meaning. Finn's casual ask, "Need anything else for Liam's recovery?" carries the weight of wanting to fix more than bone fractures, and Bridget's offhand, "I appreciate your dedication," reverberates with gratitude she cannot quite contain. Meanwhile, Finn's phone buzzes with threatening texts from Steffi, accusing him of betrayal, but Bridget's presence soothes him, reminding him that caring for others is his true calling and, perhaps, his heart's privilege. As they review Liam's file together, their heads hover close, breaths mingling, and the beeping monitors around them fade into insignificance. Beyond the hospital, outside the sliding glass doors where paramedics wheel in new life-or-death cases, another drama simmers. Nick Marone's relentless pursuit of Brooke Logan has left him little time for Bridget, and with Liam out of danger, Bridget is free from the guilt that tethered her to past loyalties. Online buzz suggests she's ready to date, to reclaim the joy she once found in romance without apology or regret. But her heart remains hesitant, a fortress wounded by years of romantic skirmishes between Forresters, Logans, and Marones. And yet, rumor has it that the show's producers intend to pair her with Finn, creating a power couple of healers whose compassion could stand as a beacon amid the soap's trademark betrayals and alliances. If Steffi's union with Finn crumbles under the truth of Luna's death, a truth that will inevitably surface and devastate Finn when he learns not only that his daughter's body was never found, but that her demise was shrouded in lies, he will need someone to lean on. Someone who understands loss as intimately as he does. Bridget, who has been by his side through every sleepless night of charting vital signs and waiting for breath to return, may be the only shoulder big enough to bear his anguish. Fans have already posted polls wondering if Dr. Finn and Bridget Forrester are a match made in soap opera heaven, citing their mutual respect, shared trauma, and unspoken chemistry as evidence that their storyline could eclipse any previous pairing in sheer emotional impact. As viewers tune in to this week's episodes, they will see John Finnegan and Bridget Forrester negotiating the fine line between friendship and something deeper while treating Liam Spencer's delicate recovery. They will witness the cracks widening in Finn's marriage as Steffi's absence becomes more pronounced and the weight of her infidelity and her role in hiding Luna pushes him closer to despair. They will also watch as Nick Marone storms through the halls of Forrester Creations, oblivious to Bridget's steering clear of his advances, and as Brooke Logan remains torn between the man who's always begged for her forgiveness and the half-brother who now stands shoulder to shoulder with his doctor, both vying for her elusive loyalty. And in the hushed moments where hospital violets bloom in the background of Finn and Bridget's workday, viewers will feel the magnetic pull of a new romance simmering to life, one born not of socialite soirees or corporate boardrooms, but of midnight shifts, whispered regrets, and the profound human need for connection when life hangs in the balance. With every chart they update and every patient they save, Finn and Bridget move closer to a future the show's writers seem determined to script. A union forged in healing, sealed by shared sorrow, and destined to redefine a legacy that has always revolved around power, passion, and the perpetual quest for love.